Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the channel. John here with Payton Land Management. Today we're going to be going over trailer maintenance and what happens when you don't do trailer maintenance. Now, if you follow this channel, you will have seen this trailer in the past. I did a repair on the axles on the other side of the trailer where the trailer axles were actually bent, and I cut them and I straightened them out and re-welded them. Well, this is a non-repairable issue right now. What happened is a friend of mine owns this trailer and the wheel decided to pass them on the freeway, and that is because of lack of maintenance. You can see barely any grease here. See, I didn't work on this side, I only worked on the other side, but see, everything is still where it's supposed to be, except you can't even grease anything anymore. You can't repair this. It's gone. It's bad. The axle needs to be replaced completely, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So on these trailers, you will see this cap. All you have to do is pull this little plug out. You can get right to that little grease fitting right there. But not everybody is, able to maintain their trailer as much as they're supposed to. That's due to, just being busy, or you're going to do it and then something happens and then, you run out of time. Remember, we've all seen those videos on YouTube where the wheel is rolling down the road and it hits the car and it destroys the front end. You got to remember, if you don't maintain your trailer and this happens, this could kill somebody. This tire is going same speed as you are. So if you're going 60 miles an hour, this tire is going that same speed as you. And when it comes off, it's going to be going wherever it's going. And sometimes it'll hit a bump. It'll go over the center divider. It'll head right onto incoming traffic. If this gets airborne, jumps up right into an RV window, kills the driver, jumps up, hits a car, with a bigger windshield, and goes right through the front. This could kill, a lot of people. This is a deadly weapon right here. So you got to maintain your trailers. If you can't do it, pay somebody to do it. These are friends of mine. If they were to bring the trailer to me and say, hey, John, can you just go over our trailer? I'd do it for free. It's not a big deal. Just going over it real quick for them. I live kind of out away from everybody. I live about 35, sometimes 40 minutes away from some people. So it's not always a possibility. But the number one thing I would definitely say is you should buy an electric grease gun. You don't have to do this with the grease gun. You just hook it up and just pump away. But either way, we're going to be removing this axle and we're going to be finding a new axle. I don't know what the width is. We're going to have to measure it. But I've replaced axles before. It's not a big deal. There's only 8 bolts. Pull the brake assembly out and you can just pull the axle right out. Or you can drop the leaf springs. I don't really like to do that. It's kind of a pain. And that's more bolts you got to remove. But yeah, we're going to get this done for them and get them back on the road. And we're also going to be going over all of the other bearings because we don't want this to happen again. If it's happened to this one, it could possibly happen to another one, because if you're not greasing this one, you're not greasing that one, and you're not greasing the other ones. So we're definitely going to be going over some maintenance. I'm pretty sure the hub is shot because the bearings are they're gone. So they're back on the freeway somewhere. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to grab are the jack stands. Then we're going to grab the jacks. We're going to lift the back of the trailer up, set it on jack stand so we don't have to worry about it falling on us or anything like that. So excuse the noise. I've got a heater going on because it is freezing in here. So right now, let's get underneath the axle with both jacks. We'll get right as far as we can to the edge. Same thing with the other one. There's one. Next, we'll get the jack stands where we want them. That's right at the back of the trailer. Let's not hit the actual wiring here. Go up a little bit higher. Then we'll put our safety lock in. Then we're going to lower this one down onto the actual jack stand. Next, we'll do the other side. Now, I want these even, so I'm going to check the actual little clicks that we have here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do the same over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need to go up one more. Get our safety block in here. Now everything's even. Make sure we're not hitting any trailer wiring. And then we'll set this down also. All right, now let's pull this other wheel off, and then we're gonna take the backing plate off of that one, and then we're gonna take the U-bolts off. Before we get started on the other wheel, let's take this wheel off of the hub just so we're done with it. Sometimes the nut will get stuck in here. There we go. At least the wheel is still in good condition. Let's take a look at this hub. Yeah, the bearing races are shot. We might be able to just put new bearings in this one. I'm gonna pull this cap off. See if I can just, yep, that just came right off. All right. It looks like we could just replace the race in this on both sides, and we should be able to reuse this hub. But on here, we're gonna have to replace this axle. So after we get the other wheel off, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull these little, I think these are 14 millimeter nuts off, and we'll just pull this backing plate off of it. And then we'll pull the U-bolts off, and then we'll pull the other wheel off. And then we'll do the same thing, removing the backing plate off of the other side. Right now we're gonna go on the other side, and we're gonna pull it apart, and then we'll come back to this side and pull this backing plate off. Looks like we're missing a couple lug nuts here. Now we're going to remove this hub assembly. A couple tools that you're going to need: a hammer, a pair of wire cutters, wire snips, and just a pair of pliers. Screwdriver just to pull the cap off. We're just going to tap on the side here. Tap on the side here. All the way around. See if this can, there we go. All right, I'm gonna grab some more rags and I'm gonna clean the grease off of here. But see, we still have a nice bit of grease on there. The grease that's in here is probably from when I did the repair on this axle assembly. I'll put the other link to my other video in the description on how I fixed these axles. Temporarily, it was supposed to be, but it's been permanent till now. Let's get the grease out of here. We'll pull the little cotter pin out. And then we will remove the bearing and the rest of the assembly here. Now the grease that I put in here was red at the time, and I can't really tell what color it is now. It's just dark and brown looking. So we will grab the cotter pin from the bottom. We will make it straight because the cotter pin goes in and then spreads apart, so that keeps the nut on here. We're going to push the cotter pin in together, push the bottom up a little bit, grab the cotter pin. We're not going to be reusing it. We never reuse a cotter pin because once you start bending them, it weakens them. You don't want to continue to use them unless you have to, but they're really cheap. You can buy a whole cotter pin kit at Harbor Freight for probably $6 or so. It comes with a variety of them. So now we're going to remove this nut. We don't even have to use the wrench to loosen it up. They're not supposed to be tight. They're supposed to be just like, not even snug, just kind of just sitting there. Just keeping the bearing from moving around and getting loose. Now, pull the hub assembly out a little bit. Use our screwdriver. Put this down. There's a spacer washer, and then we've got the actual hub bearing. Bearings still look pretty good. Put that face down. Now we can remove the whole entire hub. I feel like the brake magnet is either come apart or it's laying down inside the actual hub. But I could be wrong. Something's keeping it from coming off. There we go. See, the actual seal is beginning to fail on this one too, so we're going to be replacing a couple lug studs on this one. Looks like 2. And the backing plate, we're probably just going to replace both backing plates. Yeah, see, the magnet's not even doing anything. It's just sitting there. So they didn't have brakes on the back of this trailer. And it looks like they have brakes on the front, but this one had none. Now we're going to pull this backing plate completely off. For this backing plate, it's a 14mm nut. So we're just going to see if we can break it loose with the wrench. And then we will take it the rest of the way off with the impact driver. Now you can just use a big impact driver and pull those off, but I would rather loosen it first because it's a safety thing. You don't want to just rip off the bolts and everything with an impact driver. You know, like this right now is fine, but I don't really want to use a big impact and just put all that force on pulling those nuts off. All right, now we're going to cut the last wire because the other wire has come apart. Just cut this one wire. Now when you put these wires back together, it doesn't matter which one goes to what. It doesn't matter at all. Now the backing plate is off. Now for the U-bolts, I am going to be using an impact driver, possibly if I can fit it in here, which I don't think it's going to fit. I didn't actually lift the trailer up high enough, and that's okay. So these are a 22 as well, looks like. So I'm going to grab a breaker bar and break these loose. And then I'm going to use the smaller impact, hopefully, to get these off the rest of the way. And if I have to, I'll lift the trailer up more so I can get the impact gun under here. Need to go. Man. I'm going to get some PB Blaster, spray it on these bolts, and see if that will help break them loose a little bit. This is going to take quite a while, so I think I'm going to jack the trailer up more, and then I will release these with the bigger impact gun. All right, now let's get back to removing the U-bolts. Much faster. See, I feel that if you're using an impact, it creates a lot of heat sometimes with the friction of the metal, and it can also damage some of the threads on the actual U-bolt or any bolt. But if we have to replace the U-bolts, we'll just replace them. See how hot that's getting? You can see the smoke coming off of it. We're probably just going to replace these U-bolts just for safety issues. I have had U-bolts break on me before. And regardless if this is my trailer or not, I want everything done safe and efficient. And these U-bolts are actually bent. So this one is bent that way. So we will be replacing all 4 U-bolts. Sometimes U-bolt nuts will get a little banged up from hitting stuff. So sometimes you'll have to take the socket and smack it on a little bit. Alright, next one. Put the socket on the nut. Smack it up a little bit. See if we can pull it off. Alright, it's the last one. Pull this U-bolt plate off. Throw it to the side. Yeah, the threads are kind of messed up on this, so we're just going to replace them all. It's cheap insurance to replace than to reuse and have something fail later on. That's done. Now this is totally free. Now let's go to the other side. Let's pull that one off, and then we're going to take the axle out. Now this one's going to be a little different. I don't think pulling the backing plate off is going to actually do any good, because this bearing is stuck on here and we cannot pull this race off because the nut is still on. There's no way we're going to be able to get that bearing off. So the only thing we're going to do to this side is pull the U-bolts off and then pull the whole axle out. So we're going to use our PB blaster just to help us out again. Spray it on the axle threads, up, top and bottom. Take our impact driver socket, smack it onto the nut, and then pull it off. Sometimes if the nut gets stuck in the socket, you can smack it. You know, sometimes break it loose a little bit, but it's not really working out. So we're going to thread it back on just a little bit. Then we're going to smack it down. Then we're going to smack the socket. Until we get it off. Alright, let's go to the next one. Same deal. Socket on. If it fits, we don't have to use a hammer. Alright, so that one's stuck too. Doesn't want to come out. Thread it on a little bit. Actually, here, we're going to take the U-bolt out. We're going to thread this on here. And then smack it off. Try not to hit the threads on the U-bolt if you're trying to save the U-bolt. If you don't care about it, then beat it all up. Who cares? Right now, who cares? Alright, same thing with the back. It's kind of a pain in the butt having to do this every single time. But you gotta do what you gotta do to get the job done. Okay. And be sure to put your thumb in the way and smack it with a hammer, because if you don't do that, you're not doing it right. I'll tell you, that hurt. Oh my goodness. Alright. Give me my socket back. Okay, now pull this whole axle off. Now, it doesn't matter if the axle falls on the ground because we're not saving this one. We're not reusing it. Now we just pull the whole thing out. As you can see on this axle, this is where it bent originally, it looks like, and this is where I cut and re-weld the actual hub assembly or bearing assembly, whatever you want to call this shaft here, back on. But now we're going to measure from backing plate to backing plate, and then we're going to measure from the center of the spring perch to the other spring perch right there. And then we will go on to e-trailer or another site or something, and we will find this axle. So right now we're going to measure the outer because I don't have anybody to hold it. Let's measure here. Let's see if we can get this directly in the center. So when you measure your axle, you need to measure from center to center of spring perch, and then you need to measure from hub face to hub face. And I will put a little diagram of how to measure when you're measuring your axle. That looks about center. We're looking at about 80 spring perch. So the next thing you're going to want to look at before you go ordering parts for your trailer is you're going to want to check on this equalizer right here. These fail all the time. I've replaced them on my trailer quite a few times, and this one has also failed. Now this is a maintenance item here, and sometimes they can have a bolt here with a grease fitting. This one does not have a grease fitting. So this needs to be replaced as well, and I'll show you why. See inside here? It's not supposed to look like that. So the equalizer has broken apart here because of no lubrication. Now that's nobody's fault that this failed. These fail all the time regardless. Whether you grease them or not, they can fail. So we're also going to be replacing the equalizer here and that bolt. The bolt actually seems fine, but once I pull it out now, actually I can feel a big lip on the bolt itself. So we're going to pull these equalizers off. We're going to take the bolts out and look at them, and we will see what else we need to order. But for right now, we need to remove that cotter pin right there, remove this big nut, and next we're going to be pulling this bolt out. This one can actually stay in here, but we're going to be needing our jack to lift this axle up to get the pressure off of it, because as soon as we drop this bolt out of here, this whole thing's going to drop, and we don't want that. So I'm going to pull my jack to the front of the trailer, jack this axle up, same thing with the other side, and then we're going to pull this equalizer out. Now we're going to take this cotter pin out. Oh yeah, look at this. This whole thing's just, it's gone. So gone. Alright, so now that the cotter pin is out, we're going to break this loose, and then we're going to break this nut loose here, take this bolt out, drop this leaf spring, pull this whole assembly out of here. Then we will remove the equalizer completely. So on the other side of this bolt, it's going to be square, at least it should be. And what that does is it means you don't have to have anything on the other side of this bolt holding it, because there's nothing here for you to hold on to. It's got a square pocket that the bolt fits right into. All right, so just like before, the nut did not want to go in, but we got it to go in with the hammer. Now that that's off, check around the hole, visually inspect it as well. Now we're going to remove this bolt with removing this nut from the back first. So we'll grab the impact, pull that off. Now these are usually a press-in bolt, so what we're going to be doing, we're going to be putting this nut back on just enough, and then we're going to be smacking it with the mallet or a hammer from the back to get this to release, because this bolt has little fine notches in it, and what that does is it fits into the hole tightly so it doesn't ever move or vibrate. You don't want to just hit on the actual bolt because you'll damage the threads. Now these equalizers usually come with brand new bolts, but just in case they don't, we want to make sure we can reuse as much parts as we can if they're still in good condition. So now that the bolt is almost out, we're going to take a pair of pliers, put it behind the actual bolt, and we're going to loosen it the best we can. And see, it's kind of stuck in here. Yeah, see, this bolt's going to be replaced too. It's actually got a big flat spot on it, so that's why it's not actually coming out as easily as I was hoping. So now we're going to grab a punch, we're going to put it in the back, or we'll just use this crappy screwdriver, and we're going to put it in through the back, and we're going to smack the bolt out. Go. The bushing is plastic on this actual leaf spring, and it is bad. We can replace it, and we most likely will. They fail so quickly and often it's almost useless, but we're going to probably replace that as well. Leaf spring can just sit there. Now we can remove the equalizer, and like I said before, we don't care about the bolt, so we're just going to knock it out. But you can see how that is. It's got a lot of flat spots on it. It has potential to fail. We're not going to be reusing it. And just like I said before, this bolt here has a square notch all the way around it. And what that does is it fits into here. So it keeps this bolt from moving. But look at that. Look at that. That was going to fail too eventually. Always got to go over your trailers and maintain them. Look at that. It's shot. This is a maintenanceable item. These always need to be inspected. Always inspect your trailer. So we're going to be replacing the equalizer, all the bolts associated with the equalizer. This bolt is actually still good, but it probably comes in the kit. Then we're going to be replacing the axle that came out the back, and both backing plates, and probably both the hubs if it comes with them, because you might as well. If it's cheaper to reuse the hubs, we'll reuse the hubs and I'll just put new races in them. If it comes in a whole kit, we'll just replace the whole kit. I'm going to go in the marketplace, I'm going to look for an axle, and I'm also going to be looking at e-trailer and compare which one I can get quicker, because this trailer is needed. It needs to go back into service. And also, you want to take your wheel and you want to rock it back and forth. See how much play you have. That's going to tell you if you need to adjust your bearings or not. You see this? It's spinning quite well. We're also going to be removing the wheels off of the front axles, and we're going to be servicing the front hubs also. But we're not going to be doing that on this video. We're just going to be taking stuff apart on this video. Next video is going to be the repair process and putting everything back together, maintaining everything, and getting it back on the road so I can get back to work and make some money for my friend. So thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you. Stay tuned for the next video where we put this trailer back on the road.